Hello everyone, I'm Wardy. Good to see you all. Thank you so much for tuning in today. This is a YouTube exclusive cast from one of the qualifier matches in the King of Battles, the $30,000 tournament that we're actually going to be doing a whole bunch of YouTube exclusive casts from because, hey, the games were just that freaking good. How could we not? And hopefully this series is a perfect example of that. In the top left-hand side, the blue Terran player, everybody's favorite, surely, is ByuN. So yes, that is ByuN. And he says, speak now down here, but that is ByuN's alias. And that's what he plays under. ByuN, our blue Terran in the top. It feels like I can't say that enough. It's so good to have him back and playing in tournaments. We're getting the replays off. We're going to be able to cast. Hoping to get him involved in some WardiTV events in the near future as well. ByuN. I just got to get his name back in my mouth, if you know what I mean, right? Like, just got to say it a lot. Believe he's here. Believe he's still really good. It's exciting. Talk more about him in a second. As in the bottom right-hand side, we've got to introduce his opponent. The Red Zerg from TvZ Gaming. It is Solar, as he helped his team out toward a Gold Series Team Championship victory over the last week or so. Congratulations to TvZ, an insane playoff run. I haven't uploaded a lot of that to YouTube, guys. The quality wasn't that great because we had to stream from the Chinese feed and all of this and that, so I'm only trying to upload like the best of the best, but it was an epic weekend of StarCraft. If you want to go back and watch it on the Twitch VODs, I would recommend, if you're looking for like a full few hours of tournament to watch, go watch that, because the storylines that we had were just absolutely crazy. The games were bonkers. Like I said, I'm probably going to still put some of it up on YouTube actually in the future. It's just the quality is not so great, and we've got amazing matches like this one to cover today as well, right? ByuN versus Solar. What a TvZ this will be. So very quickly, before we get any further into it, obviously got to say hit that subscribe button, guys. Give us a like. Leave a comment down below. All that usual good stuff. It really does help the channel out. It really does help the video. And we're trying to have a bit of a YouTube resurgence because the YouTube slowed down a lot the last few weeks. And I'd kind of like to hit 35k YouTube subs by the end of the year. I think that's the goal. And right now, we're not on pace to do that, but I feel like we could be. Yeah? Cool. So do those things. And I really appreciate it, of course. Thanks for watching. So Solar, looking pretty good lately. I put up a video the other day of him versus Cure. Mute this video for the next 5 seconds if you don't want spoilers. But basically, Solar beat Cure. And that was after Q had been on a super hot streak. So you got to expect that Solar comes into this looking and feeling really good. And we've got a ByuN who's obviously showing us that he can be competitive. Now, here's what's really interesting to me. I've seen ByuN play a hell of a lot of TVP, a bit of TVT, and I haven't seen that much of his TvZ. Even when I've tuned into his stream, he doesn't seem to be getting this matchup. So I don't know what to expect from him, apart from hopefully some impeccable micro, some awesome decision-making, and just a fun time overall. You guys are very going to quickly figure out as we cast some more ByuN games this week, probably, is that I'm a big ByuN fan. Like, I'm a bit of a ByuN fanboy. I think we can just go out there and say it. So, yeah, it's kind of a thing. I apologize in advance if I'm a bit biased. I know some people like to show up in the comments and be like, "What, are you so biased? You love Protoss." And it's just like, I mean, you must be so dumb if you think I love Protoss, because I am a Terran fanboy at heart through and through. So, yeah, if you want to go in the comments and make that comment this time around about ByuN, I won't be mad. I probably won't hide you from the channel so that no one ever sees your comments again, because I would accept that. That kind of sounds correct to me, you know? He's just an exciting player to watch. He's got great micro. He attacks everywhere. I mean, ByuN's TvZ of old was just amazing. He changed meta games, and what's going to be really weird here is seeing ByuN open with a battlecruiser, because I don't think I've ever seen ByuN open with a battlecruiser, because this wasn't really a thing when ByuN was last playing. So that's really exciting too. So yeah, let's see how this turns out. I want to quickly mention as well, I know I'm mentioning this and that all over the place today, but I said there's maybe going to be some more ByuN games. I actually got hold of a couple ByuN replays from some show matches, some best of nines. So I think they might be coming to the channel very soon. I just have to find the time to cast a whole best of 9 without being on stream and stuff. So yeah, look out for that kind of stuff. If you're like me and you're a ByuN fan, then you guys can watch out for that. I feel like we're going to have a bit of a Terran week because we got a lot of Maru replays. We got a whole lot of ByuN replays. Feel like it's going to be Terran week this week, guys. All right. Enough about all that. Let's talk about what Solar needs to do here. First step, identification. Can he figure out that this is a BC? Well, you look at the opening. You know it's not 3cc. You see the 111 setup. You know it's double gas probably early on, I would say. This gas started mining later, so you know the exact time of that. And it's not 3cc, so you kind of know exactly when 2 gases were taken. It's got to be a possibility you think about. And even though he's not seen anything else, such as a tech lab here, you've got to be thinking about that chance. I would have loved this Overlord just to dive back in and go through that Marine, even giving itself up. Because actually, this is amazing info. You get to see a BC potentially popping out. You get to see stim pack building. That lets you know it's going to be Bio following up this battle cruiser. And that's one thing I was holding on out about talking about. Because to me, ByuN is not much of a mech player. ByuN is like really a Bio player. So for ByuN to open BC, I was like, is he going to play mech? And then I was kind of like, ooh, like, I don't know what that looks like at all. I don't know how ByuN, ByuN playing mech feels to me. But the fact he's going Bio has me all like excited again, and I mean, I'm a believer, and I love it. Gets in here, you can see the queens weren't really ready for it, only 4 drones killed, but he has the queens. He's got the sport crawlers finishing up, so there is going to be a defense of this. But so far, ByuN just catching Solar a little bit out of position. I'm not going to say underprepared, just a little out of position right away there. That's a great catch on the Hellions, though. And all 6 of those get taken down in an instant, and that is, well, that's very expensive. Because that's all of your map control gone. You want to move this third base into position? Nuh-uh, you can't. It's a really rough position to be in. And the good news is this BC is going to get good damage done, right? The fact he got 4 drones and then was still healthy enough to come back in again. Still super healthy now onto this third base. That's 8 drones in total now from the BC. And this BC is somewhat making up for losing the Hellions because ByuN will have to slow down the taking of the third base. Because how are you going to take it when this many lings are just out on your front doorstep? You probably aren't gonna. Hate to say it to you, hate to break the bad news, but it's probably not going to happen. As this BC comes back around, bit of damage onto the extractor. Queens are going to push that BC away into the corner. Now it's going to teleport away up into the natural. And we do see a lot of Zerglings from Solar continuing to set up right now. Just moving around. Surprised they don't stay as aggressive over here, as this Overlord will go down. At least gets a sighting of the third base coming up. Maybe just expecting, because Stim is done, there to be potentially a medevac drop, right? So you've got to then be a little bit careful of the dice that you're trying to roll, because if you roll the dice, you're like, ooh, let's go attack over here. Yeah, you might find a bunch of SCVs, or you might find, this, a command center that barely has any SCVs on it, and then 2 medevacs hit, and you've got nothing back at home, right? And this is a scary moment or two, especially because you don't have Banelane speed, so you're basically fighting this with just Zerglings, and relying on the 1-1 upgrades and just the number of units you're able to produce. Let's see how well this goes for Solar as ByuN unloads. And he is just going to move forward. He's going to try for an Overlord. The fueling's going down already as ByuN just kites back, loses 1 Marine in that trade out, and gets about 19 Zerglings for his effort. I mean, must have been a few going down to the Hellions earlier, but, well, there's the BC coming back down the left-hand side as well. So ByuN's going to keep the pressure up, and, I mean, no Spire just yet. Looks as though Solar will just play a Lingbane muta. Obviously, I think he's identified that this is Bio, right? So just going to stick on the Lingbane, add mutas in. The mutas will be able to help chase the BC down at times. But ByuN's pressure right now is very scary, especially when you know this guy is so good at target firing. You got to be really careful, because those slow Banes, before they have Bane speed, I mean, they just feel ineffective when ByuN is in place. So Solar would kind of like to not fight this for another 20 seconds or so if possible. Let's see. I mean, he dives in here. I mean, he obviously just has more units than really necessary, but then he gets back down to the low ground, and right now, these Lings and these Banes just can't be everywhere they need to be. So that's a few more drones, and now the hatchery taking damage. You got to respect this. And guess where he's going to go? Oh, you guessed it. Good job, guys. He's back in the main base, and the BC's still over here finding an Overlord. I mean, this is just 1-2 pressure. Hit on the left side, hit on the right side. Oh, you want to go this way and that way in the main and the 4th base? Sure. In the end, ByuN backs away. Bane speed is done. It makes it a little bit more difficult to be successful with all of this. Wow, the BC teleport to the main. That wasn't expected. Oh, but you know what? It might just be perfect, because it's going to drag everything toward the main, like queens and mutas. And there's the drop here as well. And he's just going to run into the third base. He's going to get himself Widowmine set up. Okay, Solar sees it now. The Lings are on the way over, but now there's nothing responding to these Marines. What's this drop going to look like? Widowmine shot hits perfectly on the Lings. Not really any Marines damage to that. He'll lift up against the Banelings. The Widowmine is going to find all but 1 Baneling. Oh, and ByuN, that was yeah, that was a very different way of approaching this. I think most people would obviously have teleported the BC home, repaired it up, kept it for later, but ByuN used it as a real threat. Move it into the main, pair it up with that drop, and then try and use that to get in position here. And it was enough of a threat in the end that he actually did get value out of it, right? That Baneling connection from the Widowmine, that was all because he was paying attention, Solar, elsewhere in that main base, because he hadn't just been able to very simply clear that up without any issues. Okay, I really do sound like a bit of a ByuN fanboy right now, don't I, guys? I apologize, but this was a pretty well-played game from ByuN, you gotta say it. You know, Solar obviously has a good idea of where he wants to go, a good idea of how he wants to get there, but at the end of the day, the offense has been better executed than the defense right now. You know, ByuN has just played a better attack than Solar has played a defense, and he's just kept the units alive. He went one way and the other. Solar's not being able to keep up with that. And now ByuN's starting to take, I mean, a significant advantage would be an understatement. You know, we're talking about 112 to 56 army supply. I mean, in that moment, he was exactly double the army supply of his opponent. I mean, what do you say about that? Queen's over here, Widow Mine's marching in. I mean, at some point here soon, Solar's just not going to have units to defend. He's already struggling on Baneling Camp. Like, he just doesn't have that many Banes involved in these fights. I like this, but then ByuN just kind of lifts up, and he's like, oh, Mutalisk, I don't care. I'm just going to boost away, get to the other side of, well, these rocks are gone, but just going to boost away a little bit, kind of take this off creep, and then I'm going to drop down, do that little bit of ByuN micro you guys love. And he gets rid of a good amount of Banes. Maybe not super efficient in the end, but it keeps Solar busy, right? And that's one of the things in this matchup. Attention is a resource. And now you're back on the left-hand side as ByuN. And once ByuN starts, he just doesn't stop. And that is kind of the power of ByuN, right? That's what we always loved about him. That's what makes him so fun to watch. He's fast-paced, he's quick, he's entertaining. He doesn't just sit back, relax, and let things play out. No, he makes things happen. He's a playmaker for sure as ByuN takes this game number one. And in a very ByuN fashion, you know. For me, this is just ByuN through and through. God damn, can I stop saying ByuN? Okay, step back. Let's talk about Solar a little bit, right? I mean, he opted for the earlier upgrades. That's generally going to be weak to kind of drops going back and forth. What was crazy to me was that he couldn't get the mutas into the game. Even when there was drops still happening, the mutas still seemed ineffective. The BC kind of soaked up so much of that Mutalisk attention that the Widow Mines on this left side got another set of shots off. And usually Solar's really good at kind of making sure stuff like Widow Mines get cleared up, etc. And so he just needs to try and keep that focus together. And it sounds crazy, but maybe he should let that BC go. You know, prioritize the threats. Is that BC in the main base a mega threat you need the mutas onto? Yes, you're going to guarantee a kill. But is that better than maybe not just clearing out this left side a little bit better? And I think Solar's got the, you know, the skill and the ability to say and look at this game and say, right, this is what I need to switch and pay attention to better. Going into map number 2, we might not even see a battlecruiser in map 2, and that could change the entire dynamic. But let's see how it plays out. I mean, best just to dive right into it instead of me yabbering on and on. And we'll see what it looks like in our second. On to game number 2, and in the bottom right-hand side, our blue Terran player, he came out firing on all cylinders in that first map, and he did not slow down. Our blue Terran, give it up, cheering on ByuN. He takes on the red Zerg in the top left-hand corner of the map. From TvZ Gaming, we have got Solar. Game 2 of a best of 3. And, of course, we had a fair discussion at the end of the last game, if you actually stayed tuned and you didn't just skip forward to this game starting. But did a little bit of chitter-chatter about what maybe Solar needs to look at going into this one. It will be interesting to me to see what build ByuN comes out with this time, right? Is he going to open BC again? Is he going to look towards something a little bit just more kind of like Hellion Liberator Stimpak, that 3cc build we've been seeing so much of? Those are the kind of questions I'm asking right now. Very interested to see how this plays out. I think it's fair to say as well that obviously these replays just got released this week with the end of the King of Battles. This is from the qualifiers, so there's a little bit of a gap since this got played. I believe this was played at the end of September. Obviously, the exact date will be down in the description below. We put that in all the YouTube videos. We don't want you two guys to be lied to or anything. I want you guys to know fully and, you know, full well when stuff was happening. Now, obviously, there hasn't been a patch since then, but the one thing that I've really noticed in TvZ since then is that we've been seeing a lot of 3cc build orders. You know, a lot of 1-gas 3cc. In fact, I've been kind of, if you watch the last couple of games that I've uploaded, I've been talking about, like, Solar just must be so sick of playing 3cc. I was so sick of 3cc. Like, please, can anyone do some double gas builds? And that's the one meta development I think that's really important from when this was played versus now. And again, it's only a couple, 2-3 weeks or something, but you know, the meta does change a lot in StarCraft 2, and again, 3cc is kind of a big thing right now, and you see ByuN just not going for that. So to me, that's cool because I actually think this plays into ByuN's playstyle anyway. To me, he's not much of a 3cc kind of guy. But the other replays I have of ByuN for later in this week on the channel, or maybe start of next week from ByuN, those replays I'm really interested because they're much fresher. They're like played the last couple of days. I really then wonder how they are going to look when we have, you know, ByuN playing TvZ kind of when the meta shifted a little bit. So very interested about that. Why did the meta shift? I think Terrans have just realized Zergs are playing a bit greedy again and that they can play greedy and get away with it. And, you know, that, you know, the Zerg meta has just shifted away from anything that can really punish 3cc very easily. So you see the Terran players going into it a lot once again. We even seen a little bit of resurgence of mech, although I don't think the words mech and ByuN really ever belong in the same sentence. So yeah, we're kind of seeing a little bit of kind of shifting around. And you know, from the Zerg side as well, I think we obviously saw kind of Lingbane and then into Hydras, and Lurk is becoming very popular again lately. And then people were like, hang on a second, we don't like playing Hydras and Lurkers and all this. And so then that's changed, and there's been like I say, there's been a few shifts here and there. But yeah, overall, I think to see ByuN playing this, I wouldn't be surprised if he would still play like this during this whole 3cc all over the place kind of thing, right? As you do see, this is going to be a straight-up armory. So he's going to get very aggressive here very early from ByuN. This is like the 420 build, if I'm not mistaken, where you hit around 420 with 6-ish Hellions and a couple of Marines in the medevac as well. This was kind of a, I'm not going to say old school, beautiful scout from Solar, by the way. Gets to see everything from the start. Seeing that armory pretty much tells him exactly what's going on. As we do see a tech lab down on the starport, and this medevac will start to fly out into the center of the map. Spinecrawler building from Solar on the front of the natural, and a few Hellions will continue up to the top side. So yes, this was kind of, like I say, it wasn't old school, but it is an older build. It comes out of the woodworks once and every now and then. I mean, this is going to hit earlier than 420, right? Like, this is going to hit like 410. Hellions morphing into Hellbats, a few Marines unloading. That's pretty sick timing. However, those Hellions took a lot of damage on the way in, so now 2 of them were already low. 1 of them gets finished off. Obviously, the medevac could only start healing once they became Hellbats, so this is just not going to do anything. And I think Solar knows this to the extent where he doesn't even need the Lings to help fight it. He just runs those Lings past, goes for the counterattack. Look at this, wide open door into the natural right now. Hellions still being produced and a Banshee on the way, and with extra Hellions, he should be able to turn this around, although he doesn't quite see where the Lings are coming from. Solar doesn't dive in anyway. He will just back away from that as he tries to get a couple Lings in for information. The big part of this here is the Banshee play. That's the one switch up that's maybe not quite so expected for Solar, although he's already preparing with Spore Crawlers. Why wouldn't you? Because even if it's not a Banshee, what else could come your way? A Liberator, right? There's so many options for what the second starport unit can be. It just makes sense to get a Spore Crawler, and especially when you look at what he's actually done, he's only gotten 1 Spore Crawl in the back of the main because he's expecting the multi-prong. He's expecting it to hit on the 3rd with the ground army, and probably the main with the air units. Forces a cancel on the command center on the other side of the map. Solar putting on some really good pressure around this pressure of ByuN. That's really nice. Being able to kind of put on your own pressure when your opponent is committing to pressure. And now I think he also got to see the Banshee. Still no spawn on the 3rd, still no spawn on the natural though, so maybe he didn't quite see that. Maybe I was mistaken. But Cloak's about to be done, and if he goes to the natural, if he goes to the 3rd base, there is 0 detection to work with right now. And that's the problem. I mean, right now he finds himself going into the main, which is the one place there is a Spore Crawler available. This Banshee actually just going to straight up fight that Queen. Some Lings getting roasted down over here. And this Banshee finally getting its first kill. The Queen actually got away low HP though, so both players are playing a little bit messy right now. You know, this Banshee definitely could have found more. The Queen definitely, you know, could have cloaked up sooner. The Queen probably could have pulled back earlier, right? There's a lot of ways to look at this, as now the Queen's go to the top to respond. Has to leave a few here to deal with these Hellbats. I do like what ByuN has done with the army, right? I think the best case scenario for him here was to force a lot of units and to make it difficult and to keep a threat on the map. I think straight up trying to trade was not ever going to go well for him, right? But keeping the threat on the map has forced Solar to play a much more defensive and careful game than he would have otherwise liked to have played. This Banshee apparently flew straight through a Spore, now gets picked off, so we just have the one in the top corner left. It will come back in for a couple extra kills and might even escape away once again. We know how slippy and slidey those Banshees can be. He's going to stay alive for a little bit longer, just going to go to the top left. And behind all of this, it's important to come back and remind ourselves what ByuN is up to. Well, he had that cancelled 3rd CC, but now he's gone all the way up to 5 barracks. He's all the way into full-on production for basically kind of going to 3 bases. And that's his production setup until he makes the next decision of this game, which is basically, do I build a 4th command center, or am I going to go into like 3 more racks and an extra 3 more racks and play like 8-1-1? Do I go for an extra factory already? I think in this scenario, on this map especially, this is a very hard map to attack into actually for the Terran. I used to think it was very good. I don't think it's bad, but it is quite a large map, and I think the Zergs quite like playing on this size of map. And I don't think an 8 racks works that well here. So I would imagine 4th base, 2nd factory, especially with Hydras on the way up, is kind of the way we're kind of looking at this going. And again, especially with Hydras on the way up, I think a longer game, more bases, and an extra factory is probably the better way to play too. Get those siege tanks out in good numbers, hold down that Hydra line, get something up that can really fight against the lurkers at some stage here. I think that was the Banshee coming back in for 2 final kills just before we see, as we followed this drop coming into the front lines. Now there's a Ling and counterattack. Nothing really in position on the third, and that's the problem. He finally lost those Hellions, and so that opens the third base to attack, and he finds 7 SCVs from it. Solar, he really loves his counterattacks, and Solar for a long time was one of those players who would religiously play a pure Ling Bane. Nice Widow Mines here, just getting a couple shots off. He would religiously play like pure Ling Bane in this matchup, and because of that, he is really good at playing with the Ling Bane. Right, he's really good at knowing how aggressive he can be. He's really good at realizing when he can maybe get a successful counterattack off. Because to play pure Ling Bane successfully, you need to attack around the Terran army. You need to have a sense of when you do send things away, when you pull things back, right? And right now he's finding the perfect timings to strike. And well, this time we're going to see a few Banes morphing in instead of just Lings running by. And hey, it's probably the right decision because he's going to have to go past a bunker or through a bunker. Yeah, that's the right call as well. He's actually going to set those Banes up and could maybe even send some more Lings there now. As ByuN tries to decide himself what he wants to do, he's going to medevac into the main. He's going to have a couple of units on the bottom side. Continue to deny creep, and the creep denial has been one great thing from ByuN here. Because he's had that pressure on the map for so long, he kept those Hellions/Hellbats alive for such a long time. As this Banelings connect. 15 SCVs go down. That wasn't quite what was meant to happen. And these Marines stem into the main base. Sorry, there's a lot going on, guys. Bad control of the camera from my end. But these Marines get into the main, they trade out. Yeah, the creep spread is really kind of pushed back from where you'd want it to be as Solar because ByuN kept that pressure on the map for so long. And now he's here hunting down Queens. And this multi-prong of ByuN, this multitasking is really becoming an issue. That's multiple Queens that go down here. And that's only going to slow the creep much further going on from this point. There's only 4 Queens on the map. That's meant to be a Queen per base injecting. And I mean, in terms of active tumors, we have a few on the bottom left. We have a few out this side, but not a lot. And there's some areas of the creep that just have nothing or thereabouts. I mean, I guess you could kind of spread the creep out in a few different ways still here, but yeah, I gotta love that part of what ByuN's been able to do. Of course, the 15 SCV kills are nice, and that's where Solar will kind of keep himself alive. And if he can keep himself alive and keep himself afloat until he gets to the lurkers, we all know how good lurkers can be defensively. They can absolutely draw a game out for you when you just need a little bit more time to get into your super comfortable position, as our Widow Mines are going to support this Marine force into the main. Only one of the Widow Mines burrowed so far. Oh, it's just too far away to actually get a connection of. Otherwise, it was probably going to do pretty well. The second one actually gets pretty good shot in the end. And the Marines obviously leave via the medevac with a bit more bio from ByuN out down the bottom side. A couple of Widow Mines going to unburrow and push around to the left. And there is a 5th hatchery of Solar. Just setting up into the middle of the map now. With our bio force pushing over the left side as well. A few Marauders going to stim. Going to get rid of a few of these creep tumors. Marines unloading in the corner. These Lings going to run in and get a little bit of a surround. We do have our bio army of ByuN continuing across to the left. So looking to make it to this corner. There's actually this drop here as well that could come back into play. And ByuN just one of these players that just finds units everywhere. It's like, you know, at times I always want to believe that ByuN doesn't realize he has units everywhere. He does. This medevac gets shot down by a spore. Unfortunately, that was not the good direction to go in. And this fight in general, you could argue, is maybe a bit messy for ByuN. Not really going that well. A lot of Ling Bane getting a lot of cleanup done. Because now we have 3-3 coming through. Adrenal Glands and +1 missiles. And our bio army of ByuN going to push forward a little bit once more. Going to grab himself a creep tumor. And a whole bunch of extra creep spread getting picked away at too. Fair amount of creep going down as these Lings are going to run in. The bio turns to fight it. Says, no, you know, you turn away from here. I don't want anything, you know, I don't really want you over here kind of spoiling my fun. Problem is, Solar's getting to that ultimate stage of the game where he's going to force a big transition from ByuN. You know, he's going to force ByuN into anti-lurker style. He's going to force ByuN to play against Adrenal and so on. And at that stage of the game, ByuN's got to really maybe reassess what he's doing. Right now, he's playing very quickly with Widow Mines and bio units all around the map. You can't really do that against lurkers. You know, in fact, I'm kind of surprised he was playing against Hydras for so long and he's still building Widow Mines. And what really scares me is that he still is. You know, he's not moved into siege tanks yet. And I'm worried he's saying that he never is going to, right? And to me, you don't beat this lurker style without siege tanks. You need a solidified backline. You need something that can stand up for itself. And the problem is Marines and Marauders, they just don't really do that. And they don't move around in a way that really allows you to do that. Yeah, you know, when there's this many lurkers, especially like when there's like 2 or 3 lurkers, sure, but it's when there's going to be like 10 plus lurkers trying to push into a position, doing that kind of typical run in, siege up with adaptive talons nice and quickly, burrow very quick. That's when you need multiple siege tanks on this map, because that's when the Bio will not hold this off. That's when the Widow Mines will have nothing to say about what the Zerg is doing. And that's where ByuN perhaps loses this game if he goes on as he is. And right now, we are still heading in that direction. Even though with how long it took me to explain all of that, we're still seeing Widow Mines started. I mean, maybe ByuN just wants to drop around the map. And that is the one way that this could maybe work, if he just goes super aggressive around the map, drops everywhere. I mean, right now, finding some fantastic trades in this main base. Don't think he lost a unit yet. That will change now. Solar's like, hey, buddy, you remember I'm building lurkers, right? I'll build a lurker right in front of you just to make sure you know. I was still pressing forward, and he's going to get another base here. I mean, ByuN is making it chaotic, and he's making it crazy. It's just Solar is doing a great job of surviving with enough that I believe, again, eventually his army gets him. Now, this is great. We do see a couple of Liberators on the way, and with Libs on the way, you do start to get to that defensive position, or something that can at least defend and hold a position a little bit better than BioMine. So maybe we're starting to see ByuN make those right moves. Of course, Solar's not exactly being able to be aggressive himself, and maybe that's the plan too, right? If you stay so aggressive as ByuN, that Solar can't ever really move onto the map aggressively, well, yeah, how's that, how's it ever going to become a problem? Well, I guess it isn't. So that's a pretty cool kind of way of perhaps looking at this and perhaps seeing how it turns out. Another lurker starts up here from Solar. Oh, 10 drones just went down. Widow Mine drops, which is something we're seeing more and more of in the TvZ nowadays as well. So a couple of Widow Mines coming in, and they just find 10 drones in the bottom left-hand corner of the map. Fusion Core and 2 more starports, so we're very serious about going into Liberator range and Liberators, it would seem. Obviously, a lot of players have been playing, when I say tech up, obviously Ghosts are the first thing that really come to mind against Lurkers. Just because we've seen so many players approach this Lurker style with Ghosts. Those Widow Mines are going to run right in on top of Lurkers. They're going to burrow, and 4 of them are going to connect. I feel like they actually blew up the Liberators, though. That was a weird little fight. I didn't really know what to make of it. Even when it ends, even having watched it, I don't know what to quite tell you guys about it. That was a little bit strange and quirky. This hatchery up here, you could probably make a push here. There's still a lot of bio over in this side. As Solar runs forwards, I think the important thing to know about Solar is he's not playing like a 90 drone style. He's been stuck below 80 this entire time. And that is still a lot, don't get me wrong, but it's not the sort of you can trade endlessly amount. So it's really important for Solar that his attacks, when they're made, are really good. And these attacks absolutely have been. What is that? He just killed a planetary and an orbital. I'm going to have to pull back to this one when this game ends, because that was crazy. He just comes across the map and just kills 2 bases out of nowhere. Solar! Wow, that's a huge play. Just as ByuN's trying to go up to base number 5, suddenly he finds that being his base 3. And losing an orbital as well means he's actually on less scans when you're already scanning a lot to deal with the lurkers. Okay, well, this for me is where ByuN starts to fall apart. He's losing depots. He's actually supply blocked as we speak right now. That's going to be helped out by Solar, who runs in to clean this out. But Solar's definitely coming out on the better end of this. You don't need 90 workers if your Terran opponent is down below 50. And is also not finding that insane amount of efficiency that Terran armies sometimes find. I mean, what is this? 25k to 23.25? We're talking about 1,700 resource loss difference in a game where the Terran would probably be feeling okay, even if they had like a 5 or 6k resource loss difference. Just because Solar has been mining a bit more this entire time. Just because, well, yeah, I mean, it's tough. I mean, I guess you don't need that much resource loss difference, but now that you're down 2 bases, you absolutely do, and it's just not there. So maybe I'm wrong in saying he was expecting it before now, but now that he's lost 2 bases, that's kind of where he would need to be. Especially, I guess, against like 80 drones, you can be very lenient there as well. But obviously, we're just not there. Yeah, this game's obviously fallen apart for ByuN. It all really just happened very quickly, right? Like I said, maybe we'll take a quick replay of it, because it did just all come apart, and it was a fine line he was walking. He was making a fragile game for himself, because he was playing a style that, again, can't really stand up to some larger fights, and he was avoiding larger fights by his movement on the map. But the moment that Solar can find some way to take a larger fight, well, you saw how it played out. And that's what I was kind of alluding to this entire time. That you were able to, you know, that Solar was always going to be competitive the later on that this game went. And that has me question as well, did ByuN ever have a way to actually end the game? Or did he just have a way to keep the game slowed down? Was he just prolonging his own death with the way he was playing, perhaps? I mean, right now, it's kind of obvious these lurkers, they go running forward. There is nothing to hold them back, right? This is why I'm talking about siege tanks. You know, if there's a few tanks here, they can't just go running up this ramp. Obviously, maybe by now there wouldn't be enough tanks out anyway, but yeah, you just can't stop this kind of a mass amount of lurkers with drops. And, you know, once Solar got the few moments to say, cool, I can bring everything across the map at the same time, well, then it was very different. Let's have a look at what happened here. We'll go to about 15 minutes. So, ByuN is attacking, right? He's still being aggressive. It's this moment when he runs these wooden mines in. But it's a really weird moment of the game as well, because ByuN is, for the first time in a long time, like, he's got a drop up here. He just doesn't have a lot at home. He never really has. But it's just because everything's kind of up here, and he's actually not unloaded all of these units. So he actually, this is one of the issues, is that he doesn't unload everything, and by not unloading everything, he makes it more easier for Solar to get away with this. Because, first of all, if you unload everything here, you're going to overwhelm this base, and you maybe kill a base, all these drones, and maybe you get in to kill some important tech into the natural, right? So first of all, he doesn't unload everything here, so he's not even fighting with everything, and that could change this entire fight. And it's at this moment that Solar also decides to, you know, oh, I've collected everything kind of together, maybe I can go across the map. But he's like, okay, I will pull back one more time. And he's like, man, that's not that large an army, so you can turn around so quickly. And this is the big thing. This is the only position ByuN's attacking, so Solar hasn't had to leave lurkers anywhere else. He's able to take every lurker bar these two across the map, and it's that lurker count that ByuN can't fight straight head on. You know, this is where ByuN backs off. We were paying a lot of attention up here, and Solar just straight up bum rushes him. You know, he's just going to burrow lurkers straight on top of this space, no defense in sight. Ling Bane just going to run at this space, no defense in sight. And Solar, what's happening in return? Well, finally ByuN starts to drop, but it's a bit like here, it's there, it's not really all connected together. You know, he's dropping into what was a couple lurkers down there still. Like, this could have done so much more had it been already down. I mean, it might have just, this counter might have never happened because Solar would have had to send more back to actually deal with this initially. And that gives ByuN more time to set up another attack, right? This is where it all fell apart. And what does ByuN get out of it? Like, yeah, maybe an efficient trade, but an efficient trade doesn't make up for having lost two bases. And that's where, you know, the pattern was unraveled for ByuN. His game plan came apart, and it really suddenly led to just a massive Solar advantage, where I think Solar was in a great position in terms of the army he was working with and everything, but ByuN had a game plan, and there was a reason he was doing what he was doing. It just came apart, and I guess we'll see what happens in Game 3, what adjustments ByuN maybe makes, as we will get a Game 3 here between ByuN and... Okay, game number 3, we get tied up 1-1, and we get to go to a final map here. Best of 3, of course, means just one map remaining. In the top left-hand side, the blue Terran player is ByuN. And the bottom right-hand side, the red Zerg player is Solar. Very interested as to what team might pick up ByuN. Very intrigued as to who might try and add him to the roster, especially the Chinese teams. I'm sure will be after him for the next year of Chinese team championships and so on. It'll be very interesting to keep our eyes on all of that. Just as we get this game going, guys, it's been a little while since I mentioned some of the other ways to support here on a YouTube video, so I'm just going to take advantage of that. You know, if this bores you to death, then I'll try and keep it short, try and keep it to 1:30 in game time, so 45 seconds, let's go. Obviously, one of the main ways you can support is the Patreon page. It's very easy to do so. The link is usually down below in the description, patreon.com/WardiTV. Anything you support with on Patreon goes 100% into WardiTV tournament prize pools, so it actually helps us support and run more tournaments, which helps me. So if you want to help me out, that also helps me, because if I get to do more tournaments, I get to produce more content. Everybody's happy, right? The other way to support, obviously, there is a join membership function on YouTube. It's down below the video as well. It's $5 a month or so. That also gives you access to the subscriber channel on Discord, where you can get replay packs of all the WardiTV events and stuff that we cast that isn't from other tournaments, basically. So, in terms of, like, if I get replays from a tournament, I can't give those out. I can give out my own replays of what I cast, though. Boom, 1:30. Check out those options, and we'll go from there. Thank you so much for listening to Bit of Solar. It does help, though. It really does. Like that video. Boom, 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 like button. Okay, natural command center comes down. Let's see where we go in terms of choices, because ByuN and Solar, I think, realistically can change this up a lot. It's romanticized, so it's kind of a larger map. We might even see ByuN playing like a 3cc on this one. I'm wondering if Solar wants to try and play Hydras on this map. To me, I don't know if I've seen enough TvZ on this map to really kind of make statements, but to me, Hydras / Lurkers on this map struggle a bit because of all these rocks and positions that the Terran can kind of siege up in. So even though Lurkers get to the point where they can kind of just run in and siege up on top of tanks, I feel like it's harder on this map that's just so choked up. Like, it's weird because obviously the Lurkers benefit from chokes defensively, but I feel like it's like, you know, the Lurkers sat behind here just don't still trade well against the Terran army that's sat behind there, and going super late game that maybe doesn't trade well. I feel like I need to see more of this map to really make a proper call on that. I wouldn't be surprised to see mutas on this map. It's also just a larger map, right? And in that regard, mutas can work out very well. Sorry, I did not for once watch the Reaper harass, and ByuN picks off 2 Zerglings early game. So it's a great start, 2 Lings. You know, maybe the Creep Tumor would have been better. It doesn't have the HP to do that right now, but hey, 2 Lings are 2 Lings, right? You know, if the 2 Lings don't go down, you probably don't even have a chance at the Creep Tumor anyway, so yeah, credit to ByuN, probably a cool little bit of micro. I'm sorry, I know I'm not the best observer in the world, guys, but I feel like today I'm being a little bit especially derpy with the camera. So I do apologize. I'm getting caught up talking about things. That's my problem. Grenade goes down, and he is just going to come and have a look, just double checking what's around. Sees a second queen, and was just seeing if that creep tumor was about to spread. Obviously, it was kind of time for it too, so he kind of delays it a little bit. He'll see it again. I don't think you can realistically get that right now. He is putting damage out onto those Zerglings instead as well, so we will never really know. He might have just been able to squeeze it out, perhaps, but it was probably going to be pretty freaking close if he tried it. Alright, well, with that said, we got into a stim pack follow-up. It is 3cc, and the Overlord sees this, and it's a very quick just stim, not even a starport off this, right? So he's going to go into extra barracks right away. So ByuN's going to start to pile up the pressure a little bit as the next step of this. Couple of racks going down the main base. Then our Hellions are going to come up through to the top and going to go into the natural expansion where we're going to be seeing drones already going down. Oh my god, this is actually really bad. 8 workers killed already. The Zergling's being picked away at. And that's a lot of workers dying. 11 workers. He's actually going to squeeze up into the main to get a couple more at the very end here. Wow, ByuN just walked into this natural and just slaughtered the mineral line. 13 drones go down. Well, engineering phase on the way up from ByuN in the natural expansion. We see the stim pack about to be done from ByuN in the main. And there's our starport on the way up as well. We do have a few Lings getting to the front here. The Marines. Obviously, you've lost the Hellions, so you've got to be a little bit careful in this moment. But it looks like ByuN has enough to not take any counter damage. So Solar tested the waters there, didn't find anything. And now ByuN gets up into the starport. I mean, this is part of the fact you went 3 racks as well. If you lose those Hellions and you're on 1 racks and you're only just building 2nd and 3rd racks and you've built a starport unit earlier, the starport unit doesn't help you there. You take damage, right? That's just a fact of the matter you have to deal with. That's kind of your sacrifice for giving up those Hellions. Of course, I mean, this was also only 4 Hellions, which is even better. But this, you know, obviously if it was 6 Hellions and you're giving up 4, then maybe you still have 2 more Hellions here as well. There's a few ways it plays out, but as a general idea, this was just a good build setup. I mean, the fact he got that much damage done with 4 Hellions in itself, that's kind of crazy. Like, that's pretty impressive. A standalone achievement to begin with, I would say. Mali upgrades coming up. 1-1 on the engineering base. Combat shield soon to be done. As our Baneling nest comes down in the corner of the natural. And we do have the few Lings. Mali are going to continue to make their way out up to the top right. These Marines going to load up into medevacs, and they are going to go down to the bottom. Yeah, currently that is where we stand. So the aggression will pick up a little bit here. So you can see ByuN's got a good army supply lead. Only 3 workers behind, and again, this is all just repercussions of the earlier game and those drones going down. Here's the question, what does ByuN aim for now? If he just goes on like a mega creep clearance spree, this could be really good, because the one thing Solar's got going for him is the creep spread being quite far out in front. Obviously, this is kind of a tough map as well. He takes this bottom base. I want to say it's a long push, but actually this bottom base isn't so bad. Because if you take the fourth base here as ByuN, you just push down here across these bridges, and you're basically on top of that fourth base with a couple flanking opportunities for the Zerg, but not a ton of them. So we'll see how ByuN wants to push. I think he is just going to start pushing the bottom left already. He's already starting a second factory too, by the way, so we'll see where that goes. And Solar is going to stick to the Hydra plan. I don't mind Hydras, and especially being behind, I think Hydras are... I mean, Mutas are obviously great comeback units too, right? But if you can never get those Mutas across the map because you're under endless pressure, the Hydras are a better option, because the Hydras are a better unit to sit back at home with. And that just might be how Solar has to play this game out for a little while because of what happened early. These Lings, though, are going to get in, and ByuN, well, susceptible to counterattacks today for sure. Solar's definitely found some good opportunities with Lings throughout this series, and right now is no different. Solar realizes that's a single Marauder. Widow Mines will not burrow yet, and so he's just going to stick here and fight, and wow, 9 SCVs go down. He will get 10 with the final blow. I mean, that's fantastic news for Solar. That actually brings him right back into the game, potentially, as these Banelings coming through. That Widow Mine's going to connect. No, it retargeted a couple times. How did the Widow Mines not find those Banelings? You need more Banes. They just finished up in the background. They're going to get through. Wow, and that's a defense from Solar as well. So Solar going to keep this very exciting at the moment. As you see our Lurker Den just going to sit out the front of the third base. Quite a few of these Zerglings will continue to make their way out through the middle. And now our Marines and our Medivacs ready to run back into the bottom side of the map. So here we go. Slings, Banes coming through. Medivac's going to load up. Some of these Marines already getting in and getting away with those. This Widow Mine's going to get a quick pick off. Picks off a couple Lings already. Nicely done. And now we're going to move our 4th command center up to the 12 o'clock position on the map. So Lurker Den's going to be finishing here. The Hive is coming through. I'm just going to be seeing Grooved Spines on the way on the Hydraless Den with the +2 carapace about to finish up on that Evolution Chamber. We'll have our Marines down on this bottom side, readying themselves for an attack in on the 6 o'clock location. The Lingbane going to pull back. I mean, this is where ByuN has looked great today. Multi-pronged aggression, multitasking, kind of stretching Solar out and trying to figure out where the weak points are. Problem is, now the Lurkers are coming up, and this is where I kind of get a little bit worried that if ByuN... I mean, he's already building tanks. I mean, I feel a little bit more secure, as my inner fanboy definitely cheering for ByuN a little bit here, but it feels a bit more secure to give us a good game if he goes tanks, because to me, the Widow Mine Star is going to do the same thing. It's going to put up a lot of pressure, but it takes the slightest slip up, the one moment where Solar finds the counterattack, for it to all come apart. And so, don't expect ByuN to do the same thing twice and it not work out, right? Unless he really feels he could have just microed something better, he's going to change it up, and that's exactly what he's doing with these siege tanks, and I like it. It's a much more stable approach, and as he takes the 4th base and has a 5th base building already, I gotta imagine we're already thinking about the idea of going up into a Ghost Academy, going up in toward those starports and the Liberators again, and making that happen. Tanks are already sieging, and there's going to be some shots across to push some of these Lurkers away. This bit of Bio has to be careful, pulling back a little bit. Ling Bing going to run back in on top of these rocks, and the Dane's going to come crashing through. The Marines and Marauders do take a fair amount of damage to that. Lurkers finishing up this set of rocks here, and on the left-hand side, a Marine's going to have to lift back up once again. Just escape away. As the scans keep on coming, he's just going to keep track of those Lurkers as they pull back. Well, this is what I mean, right, about the Lurkers in this position. Yeah, he's cleaned up a lot of the rocks I was talking about earlier, like these ones here. But still, these tanks sit back behind kind of a position that's hard to get on top of. It's hard to run there without coming through choke points yourself. And so, at best, Solar has a standoff, right? At worst, this happens where he kind of feels the need to attack in and try and chase the Bio off. I mean, right now, those Lurkers just need to come to the left side because the Bio otherwise is just going to sit here. But then the tanks show up here. I mean, ByuN is slowly starting to create a bit of a choke on this army of Solar. Now Solar's going to make a bit of a more aggressive move forward, and that's going to work well. Banelings connect in. These tanks are obviously quite out of position for looking down to this fight over here. As Enhanced Shockwaves, we are going to see those ghosts starting to come into play. Enhanced Shockwaves, obviously the EMP radius upgrades, but can still be important because, I mean, we start talking about Vipers and stuff, and, you know, while Vipers don't sit in like a massive cluster like Protoss units do, and you're looking to hit everything with the shields, even just having the extra reach of the improved radius can help you just attack those Vipers right on the edge of your range and just take those abducts, take those blinding clouds away a little bit more easily. Lurker's going to burrow up here, and they are going to start breaking out of this position. I feel like ByuN's just a little bit over to the right side, so it's a good moment for Solar to snag some unit kills on the left. And these Marines get across a couple of Banes being picked away at. And more of these Zerglings going to continue to the left-hand side as well, as Marines are being healed on up. Bio army of ByuN comes across to the right. He's going to see all these Lings running in. I mean, yeah, you're never going to really be able to stick around here. And he's split that medevac off to the side. So yeah, we're in a bit of a standoff. I think Solar's even going to push this back and clean this out right now. Solar's got a huge bank as well, by the way. As this cleanup's going to bring him back up to being pretty close on resource loss. Well, not if he keeps running into so many siege tank shots. Those actually did much better than I thought. But, yeah, okay, I mean, well, look at this. ByuN maybe could have moved this 5th base out, and that's one thing I was thinking maybe during all of this that could have happened. Because there's definitely been a chance. He's going to line up a few snipes already on these Lurkers. He'll get one of them. But now ByuN's the one that's kind of put it into a corner. Ghosts in the front go down to the Bane shots. Tanks are desperately trying to siege up as Lurkers and Lings are just going to start a rampage through it. Okay, how do you stop this from happening? I mean, all of a sudden Solar gets on top of this base again, and right now ByuN maybe just losing too much on that right side and giving Solar this opening to come across the map, and he is just killing everything. Orbital command has to lift. Depots are going down. Armory is already dead. There's a drop on the other side that finishes off that right-hand hatchery, but now we're talking about a 5-base Solar still, who has done a lot of damage to an attempting to be 5-base ByuN. I mean, these SCVs look as though they don't have a way out either. As they go running from Lurkers, they're going to go running into Zerglings. And this, again, kind of came unraveling very quickly for ByuN right now, as Solar looking pretty good. The Parasitic Bomb gets a full medevac kill as well. And ByuN's down on 120 supply, and this might just be the final few moments. Solar, he found that moment. He got some good cleanups on the right side. ByuN wasn't able to hold the position. He hadn't tacked up into enough ghosts just yet. He was in the in-between phase. He was in that transitionary period where he was just building up to all the ghosts. He was trying to keep pressure on the map. So the pressure was getting weaker. The ghost count wasn't there. And it's just been a little bit of not quite there on this and not quite there on that. And so Solar can just, you know, say, well, if I go full force on the attack, what do you actually do about it? And the answer was really, so far, not just any, you know, well, just nothing at all. And as ByuN will pull it back, but you're not allowed this base. You've got to try and retake this base, but there's a Lurker in position, so that's just a mild annoyance you got to work on. Ghosts are going to line up some snipes, and they will get rid of one more Lurker, but I mean, it's going to take more than that to realistically stop this from continuing to happen, right? Lings back on the rocks in the middle of the map, and we do have the bio still set up underneath these medevacs. Couple tanks still continuing to build, +3 melee, +2 missiles, all on the way out. The Spire on its way in the bottom of the map as well. Well, here we go. Going to see an army that's going to start running forward. Lings, Banes, Lurkers running straight through. Gets a burrow up. Bane's going to keep coming through this. The tank's sieged, and just going to be seeing the Banes actually running in and actually taking a big beating. So ByuN survives via the choke point. I lose the command center, which is a shame. At least the ghost count's getting there, so he's able to snipe away at some of these Lurkers now and again now, but, well, Solar's on 87 workers and a bank to work with. He's already maxed out and has a lot of gas, so it's just minerals. And the thing is, minerals are quite easy to come by. You just have to put a few more drones and a few new bases, and he's got those bases up for sure. There's no way that that's a question mark in this game just yet. Bane Lurker still out toward the middle of the map. Gonna see the tank gonna siege up. Bio army up on the ramp as well. Here we go, running through these Lings. Gonna run in at this. Couple of tanks forced to back away. A lot of these Banes being picked away at. Lurker's still burrowed on the ramp as the bio army's gonna line up a couple more snipes. Lurker's taking a whole bunch of extra damage, and wow, ByuN's gonna clean out this army. I mean, Solar just seems so eager to end the game. You know, he doesn't necessarily need to make a lot of these fights on. You know, it's not like he's re-maxing on this. Like, yeah, he's going to come out on higher supply, but he's not 200. Of course, he's killed 23 SCVs in the process, so it's not like ByuN is rebuilding to a huge capability either. It's a lot more Hydras still on the way out. Ghosts also still gathering themselves. Another tank of ByuN that moves forward just a little bit. I've got a few Lings of Solar running up the right-hand side, so they're going to get up to the corner. Ling Bane settling down here from Solar 2. Looks as though it might want to come up the left side. Like it's going to burrow. Marines and the Marauder have to dodge away. Ling Bane is all settling down together, and these ghosts, again, maybe looking to try and line up a few snipes. Lookers have to burrow and back off. Yeah, makes sense. And here you go, Ling Bane Lurker just going to move forward once again. The Ghosts are already in some trouble. I mean, it's just going to be this again and again from Solar, so unless ByuN can find an amazing fight without losing 20 SCVs, that's the issue. He's losing 20 plus SCVs every time he defends, and that's why this is working from Solar. Slowly but surely, I mean, now ByuN's on 18 workers, so what else is he meant to build? He pushes Solar back maybe one last time. Don't know if he even pushed back versus Solar just gave up the position to get ready to go again with full strength. This should be a game ender any second, guys, because this next fight from Solar, Bane's morphing in. ByuN, I mean, even if you just trade badly as Solar, how do you recover from 22 drones on the map? ByuN's not had any presence on the map for such a long time. There's been creep spread everywhere. Yeah, Solar really found the right moments to fight in these games, I think, is really the important thing to look at here. He really realized when he could take a fight. He really realized when ByuN was a bit too committed to one thing. And he really realized when ByuN wasn't quite set up properly to deal with it either. That Baneling connects in, and ByuN's there losing everything on the right side. This attack will do nothing. The Lurker's backed away for a moment or two, a bit of respect, and also maybe a bit afraid of those ghosts. But yeah, otherwise everything looking great, right? These Lings are going to continue through the top. They're going to make their way along. GG is called, and Solar will take it 2-1. And ByuN will take the loss. You know... I don't know, guys. Sad game. Solar played a great game, right? This Lurker style is very powerful. We know that lately. We have seen Terrans come up with answers for it. But ByuN didn't have the answer here just yet. So that was that. ByuN drops down. Solar takes it 2-1. Now again, thank you so much for watching, guys. Like I said, we're going to try and have a bit of a YouTube resurgence. We've got some really good series and stuff to put up in the near future, so I hope you enjoy all of that, all the uploads in the next few days, even if they're not YouTube exclusives, and I can't say, oh, hi to you guys and stuff. Don't forget to keep on liking the videos and commenting and stuff. Helps the algorithm so much, so check out all of that. Thanks so much for watching today, guys. This was Solar vs. ByuN from the King of Battles qualifiers. I was Wardy, and this, of course, was WardiTV. See you guys next time.